Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of The Natural State of Wrestling. My name is Irvin, and this is Justin joining me today as my co-host. The purpose of this podcast is to talk about wrestling, but at the same time to interview folks in the wrestling world. The name, it's Natural State of Wrestling because we're both in Arkansas, which is the natural state. So a little play in words there. But at the same time, the purpose of this podcast is also just to talk about what's going on in the state of wrestling, and just everything a little in between. And I think we offer a interesting perspective. But this episode specifically, since it's the first episode, is to talk about, why are we wrestling fans? Why are we interested in talking about it? And hopefully answer any kind of questions in the future going forward, of like any other questions that people might have about our like why we watch wrestling, and at the same time just interact with people. Specifically, I feel like there's space for folks in Arkansas that are fans that don't have like a platform like this where we can talk about stuff on a local level, but also at a national level. So I'm excited that you're joining me today, Justin.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm really excited that we're doing this. I think, like you said, this is a great opportunity to get a lot more people interested in wrestling and hearing about other people that share this interest. So I'm really excited.
And just some background information on us, if we can talk a little bit about when we became wrestling fans. Justin, do you remember if there was a moment when you became a wrestling fan, or a year or anything?
Yeah, I remember the exact year. It was 2001. And I remember it because it was, one of the biggest transitional years in the history of professional wrestling. Vince McMahon had just bought WCW. The invasion angle was just kicking off, and one of the first matches I ever watched was the triple threat ladder match with the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian. So like I became a fan instantly.
So it sounds like you started a little bit later than me then. For me,
Yeah.
it was, I think I forgot how old I would have been. It probably would have been about 6 or 7 years old. Uh,
Mhm.
First image I remember was Undertaker, Ministry of Darkness, and I think it was like a ad or a promo they did of him when he's like on a chair, uh,
Mhm.
on a dark chair, like a throne, and the
Mhm.
camera kind of pans around him, and like when it gets to him, like he does the whole like eyes
Yeah.
up.
The eye
And
thing.
I was hooked from that point. I was so cool. Props to my sister though. My sister was the one that really got me involved because she was into WWF at the time, and it was
Mhm.
during the prime. It was the Attitude Era. It was Stone
Yeah.
Cold, Mankind, The Undertaker, and we would watch wrestling together when we could. And so you started a little bit later than me then, because there probably would have been like
Yeah.
3 years afterwards then.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds right. Now I will have gone back thanks to what used to be the WWE app, but now I think they've moved over to Peacock and stuff and moved the library over, which gives you the ability to go back and watch older episodes and stuff like that. And so I've gone back and tried to, later in life, watch some of those bigger moments in wrestling history. I don't remember that one specifically about The Undertaker. I'm gonna have to go find that. That sounds really cool.
Did you ever get to like going back, did you ever see the whole like everything that happened with like the Ministry of Darkness with the Undertaker?
Oh yeah, I remember.
5 people.
Yeah, that and
It's
then
crazy what people
when
what they
it
would get away
became
with
the
back then,
corporate
right?
ministry,
Yeah, yeah.
like yeah,
It became a little bit like at that point,
yeah,
but I do remember like the fact that they were crucifying people. I remember
mhm,
watching it once on TV. I was like 7 or 8, and they had who was it? They had someone, I think it was Stephanie McMahon. They
mhm.
had her up in the cross, and I was like, "What the heck is this?"
Oh yeah,
And it's crazy how back then, you could get away with things like that. Because you try it
hmm,
today, you try to do like a crucifixion anywhere, like people are gonna attempt to cancel you somewhere.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, you're totally right. People talk about like the Attitude Era and like it being the one of probably the, if not the most revered era in wrestling, but there was a lot of stuff back then that like you definitely could not do today. I mean, there were great storylines and there was great matches, but there was also some pretty toxic stuff that
Oh no, there was.
went on back then.
Like someone gave birth to a hand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Fabulous Moolah and Mark Henry. Like Mark Henry
Old
was.
ladies getting slammed from the stage to like the tables in the bottom. Um, like not only just that, but like the misogynistic aspect of
Mhm.
it too. You know,
Oh man, I don't know if this was technically Attitude Era or if we'd already dipped into Ruthless Aggression by this point. But one of my first wrestling memories, and even as like a 12, 13-year old, I was like, this is not good. Was Vince McMahon making Trish Stratus bark like a dog?
yeah.
It's like, oh, that's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, just there's all these different things that I mean, I think even when I was a kid, I knew it wasn't okay, but
Hmm.
obviously not to the extent that I know now, just because I've been educated by a lot of
Right.
people. But looking at it back, yeah, a lot of those things, things that even like wrestlers like Triple H said back then,
Hmm.
uh, which is one of those things where like there's no excuse for it. I don't think it's right. But one of the things that I do understand is that like times were different and society
Hmm.
accepted things a little more back then than they do now. I actually like where we're at. I like people understanding how these issues, and a lot of the things are wrong and we don't do them again in the
Yeah.
future. But at the same time, I also am very understanding and I do give grace to people um, because society was in a whole different place back then, which is not an excuse,
Right.
but it
Right.
was, you know.
There's a difference between excuses and reasons, and I think there's a reason for a lot of the things that happened then. Time being one of them, the people running the show, like Vince, being one of the reasons, but that doesn't make excuses for any of it.
What are some of the early on memories that you have? Did you sit down like every Monday to watch Monday Night Raw when you were younger?
Yeah, well, not every Monday because we didn't have cable, and I think at that time Raw was on Spike TV, so I
Yeah.
had an aunt that had cable, so I would uh, my parents weren't very approving of some of the content that was going on at the time, so I'd have to go
As
to
they
my.
yeah.
Oh man, I think one of the things that got me banned from watching it for a pretty significant amount of time was uh, we I was over at my aunt's watching Raw, and my parents came over to pick me up. And when they came over to pick me up,
It's always the bad timing. It's always
yeah,
bad.
it was the worst possible timing. It was the Vic stuff, like
Yep.
with Triple H and the casket and that whole thing. They came in that moment, one of the weirdest, grossest, most out there moments in wrestling history. And my parents walked in, and I was raised in a very conservative Baptist home that, very strict rules, very that kind of stuff. And they saw that and they were like, no. Yeah.
I think one time I forgot what it was. I think it was a WWE pay-per-view and it was like in 1998, 1999. And I think I rented it from one of those old video stores back in the day when you could rent videos. And there was a girl, I forgot what girl it was, but she flashed the camera. Like it was one
Oh, yeah.
it was a female either wrestler or valet. And she
Yeah.
flashed the camera and they showed everything. And my aunt was there when she saw me see that and she told my parents and they were like,
Oh,
can't be watching that. And I relate to what you're saying though about like, you know, I was poor when I was growing up, and we also couldn't afford cable for a good portion of my childhood. So we would go to my neighbor's house. So it'd be every Monday, go to our neighbor's house. There'd be about 3 or 4 kids there, and we'd all watch Monday Night Raw the entire time. It was 2 hours back then. It wasn't 3 hours like it is now.
mhm.
But it was from top to bottom very enjoyable. nowadays I can't even I can't watch Raw for like 10, 20 minutes anymore. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's not catered to me.
No, I agree. And I don't know exactly who they're catering to at this point. I still watch Raw every once in a while.
So,
I still catch SmackDown when I can. No, I've got a young family, so usually when I'm watching it, it's a replay on my computer at night. But um, I'm just not really sure who the audience is because I mean, it's not the same audience that like Dynamite's going after at all.
I think it's kind of meant to be more of a like they're trying to Hollywood WWE,
Yeah.
make a Hollywood like appeal. Um, because I sometimes think to myself, when I was a little kid, like would I enjoy this? And
Hmm.
honestly, I don't think I would. I think I would enjoy Dynamite the same way, because Dynamite reminds me more of like the late 90s, early 2000s Raw, than anything. And even something as simple as like the lighting in Dynamite
Hmm.
seems a little bit more real to me than Raw that looks like so glamorized. Everything looks so sparkly and yeah, and the actual product doesn't match it. Nothing against the wrestlers. The wrestlers are amazing. The
Yeah.
talent is amazing. It's just that just the stories don't grasp my attention.
Yeah. And you're right. Like to call out, like it's definitely not on the wrestlers because Raw has probably the best women's division in
Mhm.
wrestling right now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's just Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, like stars that are just immensely talented and given really poor scripts. And
I forgot if it was this week or last week where Becky Lynch had like a really good match. I'm not sure.
yeah,
I forgot who she wrestled against, but she like was like throwing drop kicks and doing all these crazy things. So there is good talent, great talent,
yeah.
amazing. Just the stories, man. Um,
And
but going
you
back,
know, go ahead.
what were we gonna say?
Well, and I was gonna say some of the stories, I mean, aren't terrible. Like, okay, I, I'm gonna toss some people off here, but I'm a Bray Wyatt fan. Like, I like the spooky wrestling, and some of that comes from Jeff Hardy being one of my and Mankind being two of my earliest fandoms, but I really like what they've done with this White Rabbit stuff. They're doing a little bit of long term storytelling with it, and it's not as rushed as they normally do. And I mean, and I think we can all agree the stuff with the Bloodline it is doing really well. It's like Paul Heyman and Sami Zayn being thrown in there too. I mean, it's great storytelling, but it's just not across the board. You get like maybe two decent stories that people can latch onto, but for the most part, yeah, it's just not great.
Yeah, I love Bray stuff, and I feel like Sammy and Roman Reigns are the best right now.
Yeah.
Everything. Roman's killing it. But what's crazy is that even though Roman is like amazing, great, holds both championships at the moment,
Mhm.
they're still lacking like that super mega star power that like John Cena had. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you saw recently, but John Cena is going to be next week on SmackDown, and
Mhm.
they were showing online of like the seats sold for that show, and the amount of seats of like the increase in like sales went like really up once people realized that Cena was going to be on that show. So he still makes that kind of a difference, when it comes to like star power. And I feel like they're still lacking that. I don't know what it is. I don't know if maybe they just took too long with Roman because
Mhm.
for many years people didn't want him to be a face anymore. They wanted him to be a heel, and they just kept on pushing and pushing and pushing him on people. So they took too long to make him a heel. But he's still doing amazing work. I think he hits like everything, the wrestling, the promos, just the way he carries himself. He's doing a great job, but there's still something missing there from just the product in general of some big star that will grab people's attention.
Well, and I think, yeah, I think the biggest difference between AEW right now and WWE is the overproduction.
Yeah.
Like WWE wants you, they have a story that they want to tell, and they want people that they want to push, regardless of fan reactions. They'll pipe in the crowd reactions that they want, and they're gonna push the whatever it is until they get the reaction they want. Whereas in AEW, just look at the tag division. Like the audibles Tony Khan is called with putting the belts on Swerve in Our Glory, then the Acclaimed. Like
Yeah.
when fans catch on to something, Tony catches on to it, and that's where he goes.
Yeah, but even just like this week, yesterday, the women headlining the show, I thought was great.
Man, that match was a banger, dude.
I thought that was like the perfect setup to bring Thunder Rosa back in. I thought it was
Yeah.
they're in San Antonio, her hometown, and it's like I thought she'd be coming to challenge, whoever won that
Mhm.
match. It didn't happen, but maybe it'll happen. It'll happen soon when she feels better. But going back to talking about our initial reasons why we started getting involved in watching wrestling. Who are some of your favorites growing up? And who's your favorite wrestler growing up, if you can name one, and then who's your
Mhm.
favorite wrestler now?
Growing up and for almost my entire fandom, it's been Jeff Hardy. The dude is just, he puts everything into everything that he does, and he has gotten far less return for it than he deserves. Like, the guy is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Uh, right now, my favorite is probably Orange Cassidy.
Mm.
Like, I kind of like the guys that, like, I mean, they're committed to the bit, and then they've got the talent to back it up. I mean, a lot of people write these guys off as kind of gimmicky guys, but go back and watch Orange Cassidy versus Will Ospreay and
That was a good match.
tell me he can't go.
Yeah. One of the cool things that I saw here locally, kind of like what the effect of a wrestler like Orange Cassidy can have. One day I went to a the Seven Hills homeless shelter here in Northwest Arkansas, like where they have
Mhm.
housing, and one of the staff there had an Orange Cassidy shirt on.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I looked at him and
Wow.
I was looking at him. I was like, you like Orange Cassidy? And he was like, yeah, he's like, I'm one of his biggest fans, blah, blah. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow. Like, like, first of all, that was like right when AEW was starting.
Yeah.
So, having someone locally here in Arkansas, they don't even come to
Wow.
Arkansas. They
Yeah.
haven't came to Arkansas yet. They haven't had a show here yet. And someone's wearing an Orange Cassidy shirt. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess, this kind of shows that, first of all, his appeal is nationwide. It's reaching
Yeah.
people AEW hasn't even gone to show wise, like hasn't been here for a show and stuff. But that's an interesting. Maybe one day, we'll have Jeff Hardy versus Orange Cassidy
Oh man.
rematch of yours, probably, right?
Yeah, for sure. What
For
about?
me, like as a kid, I think it was. I mean, I started out with like The Rock and stuff. Like it was
Yeah.
grabbed my attention, but Eddie Guerrero
Yeah.
probably my entire childhood. Just because of representation, and he was literally, people call him, like the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Was amazing with his character skills. He was a master in the ring. Just being a third generation wrestler, and generally, just being very charismatic. And I saw a lot of myself in him because of like the Latino part of it, the Latino heat part of it. Just sometimes being aggressive, being funny,
Mhm.
and the California lowrider culture as well. I'm from California, even though
Mhm.
he was from Texas, all these different things. Now, well, I feel like there's somewhere in between now because it went from Eddie Guerrero and then to CM Punk. So CM Punk, from
Yeah.
the moment, I think it was like probably 2 years before he went to WWE, from that moment
Mhm.
all the way till AEW. If since he's currently not active, trying to think of someone right now who if I had to pick one right now, I
Mhm.
would say probably Ray Phoenix. He's
Yeah,
amazing. Like the
he
way
needs a
that he,
singles push.
yeah, the way that he just runs on the ropes, on those, and then he still manages to do an amazing kick. Uh,
Mhm.
I got to visit his store in California when I was over there this year. He owns a store with his brother with Penta. They own like a wrestling store. It's like a small
Oh,
wrestling
that's cool.
California, yeah. And I went in there and they have like TVs playing wrestling all the time, and then they have all like several memorabilia that they've worn and a bunch of different stuff of different wrestlers. And they have shows there like once every 2 months, and they bring in some like well-known wrestlers. I think Dolph Ziggler was going to be there 2 weeks before I was there with his brother, and they were going to do a signing or something like that.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah, but hopefully, I think it'd be cool to see a Ray Phoenix versus CM Punk match in the future if he comes back. I'm, ho-
Yeah.
I'm hoping he does. What do you think about that? Do you think he's going to come back?
Well, I saw something on Twitter last night that he posted something on his Instagram with FTR.
I saw that.
That something they were in the same city that Dynamite was being filmed or being broadcast. I don't know that he was backstage at Dynamite, but or even if the Instagram post implied that, but he was with FTR where Dynamite was being broadcast. So
Okay.
uh, that sent some people like, "Hey, what's going on here?"
That'd be so cool that he comes back. I hopefully I think he will. My heart says that he's going to be back. Uh,
Man, I hope so.
yeah, because I mean, think about it for him. That would be very bad for his legacy if, he leaves WWE, on bad terms. Not his fault, right?
Yeah.
WWE, but then ends also in bad terms with AEW. It just wouldn't look good. And I think
Yeah.
ultimately there's people in AEW that he loves, FTR, and other
Mhm.
folks that love him as well. And I just think that hopefully, they're able to have some sort of conversation where, they can settle things and hopefully not have tension like sounds like they've been having for the past few months.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing too, is I really hope that they can work it out because if they don't, I mean, it's not going to be the elite that leaves. Like they're like the company's literally named after them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, I really hope that they can just sit around a table or something and work it out. And uh, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever even actually know what happened at the brawl out at all out, but um, hopefully they can just put it all aside and you know maybe we get a trios match between CM Punk and FTR and
Sure. They should play along to the storyline and just
yeah.
they shouldn't if he's gonna come back, they should play this into the storyline somehow.
Oh, for sure.
I think it'd be, and even that, even besides that, I mean, CM Punk did bring in good numbers, to the company.
Yeah.
Not only like physicals, like people in seats, but some of the highest numbers of Rampage or AEW included CM Punk in there. So I do think he does bring a lot to the table, and hopefully they're able to resolve that. Because, like I said,
Yeah.
he's a favorite wrestler, and him being, of course, he's injured right now, but
Mhm.
him being healthy and still wanting to be involved with wrestling and then not being involved for me as a fan, it's like, it sucks. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they can come to good terms.
Yeah. Same.
And so have you gotten the chance to go to any pro wrestling events in the past, Justin?
So I have only ever been to one, and it was like a little indie show that came to the Saline County Fair. If y'all don't know where Saline County is, it's by Little Rock. It's Benton Bryant and Bauxite. And they had a stacked crew there. They had Jimmy Superfly Snuka. They had so I actually almost got kicked out of the show. I was 13 and I pissed off Coco Beware.
Really?
I started a chant that said Cocoa Puffs
Wow.
because I heard he hated that, and then the crowd around me picked up on it and yelling Coco sucks instead.
Oh man.
And he started yelling at me. And so I, being an idiot, it jumped out of my chair, thought I was part of the action, folded it up, and was like, let's go. He was like, kid, you're crazy.
Your body gets smacked, Justin.
Yeah.
I got to go to, I think my first wrestling show was the indie show too. It was here in Springdale. It was at the it used to be, what is it? I don't even know what it's called now, but it used to be the All-Star Arena here in Springdale where they play soccer and other sports. It was a small indie promotion that was national, like it was traveling nationally, but it was a small promotion, and they had like Chris Masters was here, and Jacqueline. Don't know if you remember her.
Yeah, yeah.
Jacqueline from early 2000s, late 19 I was gonna say the late 1900s.
Yeah.
Late
Man,
19
that makes me feel old.
I was born in the late 1900s, Justin. But Chris Masters put me in the master log.
No way.
Yeah, and
That's awesome.
I think I still have the pictures on Facebook because I have a picture of me posing next to Chris Masters, which I was a scrawny little kid. So imagine me,
Hmm.
my little kid next to him, because that was
Hmm.
like kind of in his prime a little bit. He had just been
Hmm.
like released by WWE. And yeah, he put the master lock on me, and yeah, it's difficult to get out of it. But I think my next show after that was WrestleMania, which is a big jump from
Dude, wow.
yeah. It was a big jump from the indie show that had probably about I would say 34 people, 35
Hmm.
people. And then, to WrestleMania 32, I think that was
Hmm.
Dallas. That's when they had like the biggest WWE blew up the number more than it was, but
Hmm.
supposedly
Yeah, they always do.
they had the biggest WrestleMania. It was a Cowboy Stadium. Uh
Okay.
biggest WrestleMania crowd ever, supposedly. Uh,
Hmm.
and I've been to Dynamite twice.
Really?
Yeah, I've been to both shows that they've had in Kansas City. I've gone to them. I was
Oh,
about
dude, that's
to go to the
awesome.
Dallas one last week, but I ended up not going because I had something going on. But
Yeah.
um, Dynamite's fun. It's
Yeah.
really fun. I still have not gone to Raw. That's a goal for next year. The goal is to try to hit a Raw, try to hit a SmackDown. I'm still like thinking about flying to WrestleMania. Not sure yet in Los Angeles. If you
That's gonna
get
be a pricey ticket.
yeah, but if you get your like for example the airplane tickets right now,
Hmm.
you get them for like $100 round trip
Hmm.
to Los Angeles. If you're gonna like uh set it up like ahead of time, you can do that.
Hmm.
So I'm still thinking about that, but yeah, I've just kind of been, lately I've just been like, if I see a local show, I'm just gonna go to it. And obviously I
Yeah.
go to the local indie shows that happen here, and one of the ones that I'm helping promote for next month will be something that I'll be really involved with as well. So I think we can create somewhat of a better wrestling culture here in Arkansas, Justin. And I think, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast is because hopefully we can start building a community of people here in Northwest Arkansas or in Arkansas that love wrestling and don't really have a place to go to, don't really have a place, to have conversations with. And hopefully, in the future we can, also bring in listeners into the show and have conversations with them. I think would
Yeah.
be and
Yeah. It was funny that you say that, because like, so I had kind of fallen out of love with wrestling for quite some time, and it, it was your tweets actually that I realized that there was still a community around here where it was like, where it was still cool to be into wrestling, and so I don't know if anyone follows me on Twitter that's listening here, but you'll see that I almost live tweet every Wednesday a review of Dynamite.
I'll put your Twitter handle down there so people can follow you.
Oh, cool, thanks. But yeah, I think that we do have a community around here, and that it stuff like this is going to help it grow. I think it's yeah.
Yeah, I think whenever I started going to these local indie shows, in Fayetteville or in Mulberry, because a lot of them were in Mulberry, which is out in
Oh,
the
wow.
boonies a
Yeah.
little bit. There was people that are wrestling fans that are from here. So I'm like, there's potential there to create more of a culture, to make it something that people feel passionate about. And then us with this platform, we're able to, like I said, connect
Mhm.
some wrestling fans with other wrestling fans that they didn't even know existed in the area. Shout out to Bad Bunny though, because Bad Bunny made it cool to be a pro wrestling fan again.
Oh,
Uh,
for sure.
Nowadays, people can't laugh at me. They can't say, why do you have a WWE championship belt in your room, in
Mhm.
your game room? Like
Yeah.
Bad Bunny's got one too. Bad Bunny's the most popular person in the world right now, and he's been in the Royal Rumble. He's competed in the Royal Rumble. He's probably going to compete in this next Royal Rumble too. And I think WWE's probably they're working on like a Puerto Rico show in the near future, which Bad Bunny's obviously going to be involved with too. So just creating that culture, making it cool again, and just having fun. Talking about the products that we see on TV, I think is super important for us. But yeah, Justin, I'm not sure if you have anything else that you want to add before we end the episode this week.
No, just thanks to everybody who's listening to this right now. We hope to keep you entertained.
Definitely. And I think, we're going to continue to evolve this podcast. I'll continue to evolve this little setup that I have here, add a little bit more wrestling stuff. And hopefully we continue to grow. If you're a wrestling fan listening to this, please share with your friends, share with your wrestling fan friends, tell them that there is now a platform where we can talk about wrestling here in Arkansas, but outside of Arkansas, we want to grow all over the country. But we definitely do think that it's important to start here, where we know that there's fans, and we can hopefully get them connected. So everybody listening, thank you all for checking out this episode of The Natural State of Wrestling. This is episode 1. I'm excited to see what we do in the future. Hopefully we're able to bring some people in from the wrestling industry, interview them, get to know them, connect with them, and yeah, let's just make this a cool thing. Let's build the wrestling culture here in Arkansas and throughout the entire country. Justin, thank you for joining me this week.
Thank you,
And
Irvin.
one listening, we'll catch you all next week.